Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. It's the show that you didn't know you wanted, like the 7-Eleven dunks. Now that Nike SB isn't going to release the shoe, everybody wants a pair. Go figure. Let's start the show with the usual. These are the hot takes. So Florida men and women, they took to the streets to protest the state's stay-at-home order and the closure of the gyms. And to prove that they need the gyms to show off their Instagram-ready bodies, they did squats and push-ups on the street. I think they just proved that they don't need gyms after all, but maybe they did prove that they need to go back to school, online over Zoom calls, of course. Just when I thought the stay-at-home orders was going to cut back on the Florida man content, they do something to keep us all happy. Disneyland has reopened in Shanghai in limited capacity and with rules that require people to wear masks and practice social distancing. Oh, I can't wait until Disney tries to pull this off in California and Florida and all the Karens get worked up about the new measures. They already hate childless millennials and now they have to wear masks? Can't wait to hear about this on Facebook. Or not, because I've muted everybody I know from high school who turned out to probably be racist. So the hype is building up for the upcoming Air Jordan 5 Bel Air alternate colorway, which is admittedly a better looking pair than the original. What I can't stand though are these blogs and tweets that say that the original Bel Air 5 was fire. Like, nah, it was not fire. It was wildly derided when it came out and was the subject of numerous satirical posts by a former Kicks on Fire editor-in-chief. Don't let nostalgia fool you, kids, even if it is a hell of a drug. Virgil Abloh revealed what I can only say is a rough sketch of his next Off-White sneaker dunk collab. I'm sure that sketch is going to turn into something that sneakerheads will love and pay 3 to 4 times their original retail price, but man, I love it because it looks like something my 5-year-old nephew drew. But the difference is that Virgil will keep working and chipping away at it until it's hype beast approved, because it just goes to show that anything is possible. Just maybe don't show it on a live stream, Virgil, maybe. Anyway. Speaking of 5-year-olds, the alleged multicolor Yeezy 350 V2 that is supposed to be for friends and family looks like an art project by Kim and Kanye's kids. That's a way better story than Kanye just saying, well, I'm a billionaire now. Like, yeah, we get it, man. I heard Jesus walks in the club and now we're here. You don't have to brag about it all of the time. Time for story time. With The Last Dance wrapping up its 10-episode run, there's a bittersweet feeling in the air. It was a time capsule to an era for those of us who were actually alive to see it, and for those who were not around or were too young to remember the details, it's a great introduction to an era where not everybody was so caught up in drawing attention to themselves. Well, except if you're Dennis Rodman. Drawing attention is like 99% of his job. Think about it. Horace Grant was arguably a better all-around player and fit for the Bulls than Dennis ever was. You could convince me that the first three-peat teams that included Grant were better than the second three-peat teams that had the Worm. However, nobody is dedicating an episode to Horace Grant, but you're definitely dedicating an episode to Dennis Rodman, and they did because of all the drama that comes with it. So now we wait for the next big documentary that captures the imagination of the sports world and pop culture. We've been on a roll lately with The Last Dance and Tiger King dropping within weeks of each other. By the way, if you had to bet who was more likely to appear in Tiger King, Dennis Rodman or Shaquille O'Neal, you would have put all your money on Dennis, right? Anyways, I think we're going to be waiting for a while for the next big sports doc. Well, probably see something 10 to 20 more like Tiger King train wrecks before we see another Last Dance level event, because in some ways, those stories we're waiting for are still being written today. And if there's one thing The Last Dance proved, it's that time and distance are what makes these things so compelling. If somebody tried to put this documentary together 10 years ago, there's no way you get Phil Jackson to talk because he's with the Lakers. Dennis is about to discover North Korea, and Crying Jordan is bubbling up as a rising meme star. But if we had to speculate what and who the next Last Dance style doc would cover, here are some of my guesses. Tiger Woods, y'all. Could Tiger Woods on his own cover 10 episodes in the same way that The Last Dance seemingly covered generations of Chicago Bulls teams with dozens of players? The answer is a resounding yes. Even before Tiger first put on that Nike hat and joined the PGA Tour in '96, he was already an interesting figure because of his backstory and what many hoped he would represent for the game of golf. His run of 14 major championships in 11 years was unprecedented, and his path to becoming the GOAT was all but secure. By the way, if you've ever wondered what the sports discourse would be like if MJ fans were less insecure about LeBron, just look at how people were fine with Tiger being considered the greatest even though he had less majors than Jack Nicklaus. It'd be a much better place, but anyways, Tiger's life after those first 14 majors could serve as a cutoff point in the narrative in the same way that MJ went away to play baseball, and the comeback at the 2019 Masters would be our finale. The thing is though, Tiger's story is not done. Not yet anyway, so my guess is we're a long way from seeing this one. I mean, he's going to be in a charity golf match teaming up with Peyton Manning against Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. That should be fun, I guess, but I'd rather pay to see Tiger and Phil run routes and catch passes from Brady and Manning. Speaking of Tampa Brady, the Patriot way. I can see the trailer in my mind now. It's like those Last Dance teasers that just had the involved parties waiting to talk. You've got Brady, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, Gazelle, Randy Moss, Ty Law, Richard Seymour, Deflategate football guy, Willie McGinnis, Rob Gronkowski, Peyton Manning, Anna Vinatieri, Troy Brown, Eli Manning, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, random NFL fans who hate the Patriots, which is everybody, the city of Atlanta, and of course, Tim Tebow for, the ratings bump. This is what the Bulls would have been like if MJ never played baseball. A historically early run followed by years of greatness with no championships and finally capped off by another flurry of rings. There's no way the Bulls would have gone 8 in a row. Someone would have got them, and I'm hoping it wouldn't have been Utah. I feel like the Patriots stock would be more of a team effort like the actual New England teams, because even though Brady's resume can go toe-to-toe with Jordan's, there is a gap in the charisma department and definitely in the approval ratings. I mean, there are Air Jordan colorways based on the teams MJ torched. What does Tom have? Slightly off-color Uggs? Does he even have a signature Under Armour trainer I can buy right now? I think the real catch here would be an unfiltered Belichick, who only ever likes to talk about the nuances of football. If he were to let loose and just unload on what he really thought about Brady and his players, not to mention NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, it might not get any better or worse than that. LeBron versus the Warriors. It's still going on, so there's not really a lot to say about it right now. They met in the NBA Finals 4 years in a row, and there's a chance they could still get together in a Western Conference showdown in a season or two. They can talk about LeBron's Miami run with a flashback like in The Last Dance, the 3-1 lead, Draymond being Draymond, and JR in the Dennis Rodman role. But honestly, I'd settle for access to Kevin Durant's burner account and or an hour of him reading the drafts that he saved. And then MJ on the Washington Wizards. 2 words, Kwame Brown. One of the surprises from The Last Dance was the uncensored footage of MJ berating Scott Burrell in practice, which included a few choice words that you don't normally hear MJ say, and that's why I think there's zero chance a documentary about Jordan's time with the Wizards ever happens. If MJ has control of all of the behind the scenes footage like he did for The Last Dance, he's never going to allow how he treated Kwame to ever see the light of day. Pro tip, read Michael Leahy's book When Nothing Else Matters about MJ's time with the Wizards to see what I mean. Kwame would basically have to be Luke Longley for a Wizards doc to ever happen. There's a lot of ground to cover here, especially if you can get Jordan's teammates like Richard Hamilton, Jerry Stackhouse, and Charles Oakley, but what I really want to hear are from the guys from the famous 2003 All-Star game like Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Stephon Marbury. I want Sean Marion to break down that MJ fadeaway that should have been a game winner if not for a boneheaded Jermaine O'Neal foul on the other end. Oh, and 4 more words. Mariah Carey, halftime show. Wow, that whole production is worth like an episode or 10 maybe. Let's jump into the Heat Check where we take a look at this week's hot releases. After the nothing burger that was the alleged Adidas Yeezy Quantum release date that every blog was posting, we're never going to trust anything Kanye ever does again. Until the next big Yeezy release, and then we're back to making jokes about it. So first up, we have the Jordan 4 Metallic Purple. These are on the 20th for $190. As a Lakers fan, I appreciate these purple metallic Air Jordan 4s. We can lace swap these with some gold, and we've got another beautiful retro that represents the best franchise in sports. Yes, I have been reading the comments on some of you who find it grating when I say the Lakers are the best, so now I'm just gonna double down on my pettiness and support my squad. Then we have the Kyrie 6 USA. These are on the 21st for $130. Who knows if Kyrie Irving would have made Team USA had the Olympics gone on as scheduled, but I'm guessing even if he didn't, somebody on the team would have worn this patriotic pair, so you have that. Then we have the Nike Air Foamposite 1 OKC. These are on the 21st for $230. It kind of looks like a Knicks-themed pair of foams from afar, but there's actually a little more to it. It appears to actually be based on one of the Oklahoma City Thunder uniforms and has a unique pattern on the insole and pull tabs that could indicate this is actually a part of the wider N7 collection that pays homage to the Native American and Aboriginal communities in that area. So shout out to them. Then we have the Adidas Yeezy 700 MN VN in triple black. These are on the 23rd for $220. I'm not one to shame anybody into donating to your heroic local health workers who are sacrificing for the greater good, but if Kanye wants some goodwill, he can donate thousands of pairs of these triple blacks to nurses all around the country. I mean, they already look like nursing shoes anyway, and I know you guys are going to be upset about that. I'm not sorry. And then we have my pick of the week, the Nike Dunk Esprit Brazil. This is dropping on the 21st for $100, and I know it's called the Brazil colorway, but it could pass for Oregon's old school look, no? I hope whenever college football comes back, Puddles is able to rock an oversized version of these. That would be really dope. And now for this week's Hard Pass, where we take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go, like a segment of Kobe Bryant fans that, oh, wait, actually, we already did that. Sorry. Just going to shamelessly plug this mini version of Hard Pass we did on Twitter earlier in the week. With Kobe no longer around to look over the use of his name and the brand, that responsibility now falls on his family. Hope you guys like that. Go check that out on at Cousteau. That's K as in Cousteau. You guys know how to spell my internet name, right? Right? Anyways, so this week's Hard Pass goes to Michael Jordan. Yes, Michael Jordan is canceled. In my opinion, he did not deliver on what was promised for The Last Dance. I'm being a little facetious, of course. Mike's not canceled at all, but his worries were a little unfounded. The Last Dance was a phenomenal documentary that kept us all engrossed for 5 glorious Sundays, but it's not a flawless piece of media. There are critiques you can levy on The Last Dance, namely the lack of Luke Longley. Seriously though, there's a lot of stories and subplots that were not covered in The Last Dance, like Shaquille O'Neal barely getting any screen time or mentioned during the Orlando-Chicago matchups in the playoffs, or just glossing over the 72-win season because they didn't want to expose that it was a less competitive year due to the talent being diluted with 2 expansion teams. I don't think Craig Hodges was mentioned once in the doc, and he and MJ clashed on stuff outside of the game. Because of MJ's involvement in the documentary and the veto power that he has, The Last Dance was not going to be the expose that many had hoped it would. The doc told us the hardships of that final season and most of the stuff that came before that, but if you came into this thinking you were going to get a side of Michael Jordan that you didn't know or hadn't heard about in a private conversation, well, you were probably a little bit disappointed in the end. The story, or if you want to be cynical about it, the marketing behind The Last Dance was that Jordan was worried this doc was going to unmask him as an a-hole. But we already knew that. The McDonald's and Gatorade commercials were cute and maybe even inspiring, but we knew it was part of the MJ myth. A casual fan or somebody who didn't grow up watching MJ's ascent might not have realized that he can be a jerk, but you can see it from his approach to the game and to his life. In Jordan's mental calculus, you have to be a certain kind of driven in order to get to that level, and that kind of driven means being an a-hole. One of the coolest and most frightening visuals in the entire documentary comes when the Bulls are practicing and MJ is whistling at somebody to get their head in the game and to pay attention to him. When he gestures those 2 fingers towards his eyes, that's legit scary. I could feel the fear whoever Jordan was directing that towards over 20 years later. Like, if my dad did that to me with that death stare, I think I'd still be a blubbering mess to this day. But again, we already knew that side of Michael Jordan. He really wasn't telling us anything new. It was confirmation bias for 10 hours. What I did get from The Last Dance was that Jordan is basically the basketball Steve Jobs. Like MJ, Jobs was a person who had a gift that people loved and adored, and in their minds, the only way to maintain and further that gift was to sacrifice everything else. It hit me when I saw the end of episode 7 and Jordan broke into tears trying to justify the way he played and treated others.
It is who I am. That's how I played the game. That was my mentality. If you don't want to play that way, don't play that way.
I thought to myself, wait, why is he crying? Does he look back and regret the choices he made and the way he treated others? Who knows if he's had this moment in private without cameras, but I think he's now at the point in his life where he's questioning his methods. I think Kobe saw that part of MJ and made peace with it earlier on. Hence the Mamba mentality becoming a brand instead of a struggle in his mind. And I think that's what LeBron sees as well, and you know what? He rejects it. LeBron didn't have to be a world-class a-hole in order to join the GOAT conversation. He can have fun, do TikTok dances with his kid, celebrate Taco Tuesday, and still have the mentality of a winner. Oh, and for what it's worth, I've seen a lot of talking about that clip and tweeting and commenting that they aspire to live the same way MJ does. Yeah, let me break it down for you. Unless you're Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, Oprah, or Jay-Z, or others at the pinnacle of their business, you don't get to play the a-hole card. I was gonna put Elon Musk in the same category, but I can't picture MJ or Oprah stealing a food blogger's photo and passing it off as his own to make a stupid point. And even then, it's questionable. What I'm saying is, if you think you're Michael Jordan, but really you're Michael Scott, you need to reevaluate a few things in your life. So yeah, enjoy The Last Dance for what it is. A fun 10-hour documentary that digs into what makes MJ tick. But the hole they dig into his psyche just wasn't deep enough for me. All right. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Hard Pass. Thank you again for watching. I'm Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week, but not before I show you a bunch of goats running around the suburbs like Supreme just had a new drop. Pretty sure it's going to be like this once they open the stores again. I'll see you guys next week. Peace. Go, go, go.